Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Jill Dowling.
And I'm Dennis Bragg. Two Hellgate High School students are being detained by Missoula police after a community member overhears the students talking about a gun outside the high school.
Principal Judson Miller tells KPAX one student was in possession of a pellet gun that looked like a small pistol. He was at the front doors of the Hellgate School on Gerald Avenue.
Community member out in front of the school had indicated that she heard two students talking about a gun of some sort, and immediately notified our SRO, which is our school resource officer. He immediately responded, and we knew who the students were and brought them into the office.
Miller says there does not appear to be any intention to use the gun in the school or to threaten or intimidate anybody with it. Both students were quickly brought into the office. They have been detained by Missoula police after the school's investigation. Miller adds he commends the students and the community for upholding what he calls the culture and behaviors that they expect of the Hellgate community.
We tell students and the community, if you see something, let one of us know, say something. And so we've had a lot of these reports. We always take them seriously. We always follow up on them. And this was another indication of what I believe is our really good safety systems at work.
Miller says the students will receive both out-of-school and legal consequences.
After being outside for a few years under rainy skies occasionally and sometimes some sunshine, Washington Grizzly Stadium will not be the site of this year's commencement ceremony. Instead, the Adams Center will host for the event for the first time since 2009.
MTN's Connor McCauley spoke to some people on campus today about this graduation change. He joins us now in the studio with more. Connor.
Thanks, Jill and Dennis. While smaller than the football stadium, the Adams Center has the big advantage of being able to control weather conditions. Also, the auxiliary gyms will be used to live stream the commencement, which gives options for families with small children or others who need the large space. There will be some savings by cutting equipment rental prices for the stadium also. Another change raising questions by students involves reorganizing the smaller ceremonies put together by separate departments. The university's new plan is for those departments to host their own smaller receptions. Students are concerned because they enjoy the smaller setting and being able to spend time celebrating with the peers they spent so much time and effort with.
We're encouraging the individual schools and colleges to host their own smaller receptions and recognition ceremonies and events for students. So the change is the actual awarding of the diploma will happen in the big ceremony, and then the smaller ceremonies and sort of celebration in the specific colleges for our students will go on Friday or Saturday.
I know pretty much everyone that's in my upper division classes at this point, and you form a bit of a community, and it seems a little bit disheartening to separate that, to break it up into, well, it's kind of ironic to break it up to put it into a larger ceremony, but you're with all of these people who you've never met, who you're probably never going to meet, and it kind of takes away from the more intimate reception that you had with the smaller commencement ceremonies.
A concern for students is if their departments will be able to afford these smaller receptions. Students think this could limit which departments are able to have them. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Connor. will also be adding a graduation ceremony in December. That's to recognize the students who complete their degrees in the summer or fall. Those details have not yet been set. Feet upon feet of snow along the Rocky Mountain front have left many trapped in their homes with little food to no food.
MTN's Rez Thomas, though, shows us how Missoula virtual nonprofit is helping answer the call for help.
For the last few weeks, Browning, Hart Butte, and other communities along the Rocky Mountain front have been inundated by snow, wind, and bitterly cold temperatures unlike anything seen in decades. The Blackfeet Tribal Business Council has declared a state of emergency for a community in desperate need of outside help. One local Missoula nonprofit is stepping up.
The superintendent of the schools put out a call for help saying that their people were in dire need, hadn't been out of their homes for weeks at a time.
Sarah Weckert is the director of a recent virtual startup called Essential Eats. Weckert has reached out to community organizations asking for financial donations, and she says several have stepped up. On Wednesday, Essential Eats made their latest of several donations over the last week.
Today we're picking up 1,000 pounds of turkey. We brought up 700 pounds of chicken quarters and some other food. We worked with the Hutterite colony to get food directly to Hart Butte.
But getting the food over the divide and into towns blanketed with feet of snow is not an easy task.
roads are closed on and off with so much frequency that an outsider couldn't have navigated it very well.
That's where Earl Heavy Runner comes in. Heavy Runner has firsthand knowledge of what communities are dealing with.
They just can't get out of their homes. Snowbanks are anywhere from 5 to 10 feet deep.
Heavy Runner, who works at the Blackfeet Food Pantry, drove 4.5 hours through tough travel conditions on Wednesday to Missoula, and within 20 minutes loaded his truck and was back on the road.
The food is going back to the tribe to be fed out to the people that can't get to town. We're estimating anywhere from 400 to 500 people.
He says the food pantry receives roughly 80 calls a day for those in need of assistance. He says he hopes that other organizations like Essential Eats will continue to step up with food and toiletry donations that are so desperately needed in a community crippled by Mother Nature's worst. Russ Thomas, MTN News, Missoula.
And that's just one example. Communities across Montana are coming together to help the Blackfeet in response to the winter storms just burying the area there. An impromptu office has been set up at the United Methodist Church in Columbia Falls, where logistical and administrative tasks are rolling on the ground. There's a tremendous need for the food and supplies, and especially baby formula and diapers. Chainsaws, labor hands, trucks and trailers, as well as fuel are also needed. Pastor of the church, John Scarrett, tells us operations at the command post have been underway now for about a week, with volunteers who work a couple of hours to all day long. She says the response has been amazing. People are stepping up and volunteering to deliver loads and stay overnight on site to help out.
People who have stepped up to the plate to just write checks locally so that we can turn around and buy things like a snow blower, which was purchased today to be sent over and is going today. It's just been amazing to see the community rally around this.
Scarrett says donations can also be dropped off in Kalispell at the Upworth United Methodist Church. Flathead Valley Community College Native American study students are also taking up a collection, and items can be dropped off there at the administrative building. Well, turning now to our weather on this side of the divide, we'll see some active conditions to close out the week. For more of what to expect, let's turn it over to Chief Meteorologist Aaron Yost. Aaron?
Now we are seeing a little bit of light snow across northwest Montana as we speak, about 4.5 inches reported by our Knoxon weather spotters throughout the day today. It's not snowing for everybody. A lot of us here in west central and southwest Montana have seen a pretty decent mix of clouds and sun, with those temperatures getting a little bit milder, closer to normal for this time of year. Right now, though, we are continuing to see what's left of a disturbance moving through the region, with again a little light scattered snow here and there. We are going to see a lull here overnight tonight into the first half of the day tomorrow. Some sunshine to be expected and some warmth as a southwesterly flow kicks up, but that moisture train keeps coming. Got all those details coming up.
Congressman Steve Daines says he's encouraged to see Montana businesses already investing their federal tax cuts. And despite some concerns in the financial markets this month, he's not as worried the influx of money will set off a new round of inflation. Daines spent this past week making stops at several locations to hear how the tax cut recently approved by Congress is already having an impact here in Montana. He says those impacts range from pay increases and extra time off for employees to businesses making new investments.
It didn't take very long. If there's a complaint I hear all over Montana, is, Steve, we need more money in our pocketbooks and we need higher wages. And this is a way to do that. It's also creating great optimism for our businesses. The Small Business Optimism survey that was conducted this past week was the highest it's been in recorded history.
On stops like this one in Hamilton, Daines says he was encouraged to hear business owners and employees expressing more confidence. He says that matches consumer confidence surveys, which he says are at a 17-year high. And Daines expects that to begin spurring more consumer spending in the coming months. Critics of the tax cuts and many consumer analysts have expressed concerns all of this activity is going to kick off another round of inflation, with those fears leading to a jittery stock market in recent weeks. But Daines does not see inflation spiking.
I like the idea of having to deal with a growing economy. It sure is a whole lot better than a stagnating economy. And when you're starting to see dollars in the pockets of Montanans, hardworking Montanans, that's a good thing.
Last week, the Treasury Secretary said he does not believe so-called wage inflation will necessarily lead to a broader uptick in consumer prices, urging investors to shake off those inflation concerns.
The Missoula Food Bank is quickly becoming not just a source of help for the hungry, but a place where lives are being changed beyond the food. When the new Missoula Food Bank opened just short of a year ago, we were all impressed by the more spacious and efficient operations, allowing them to serve more clients. But beyond distributing food donations and assistance, the food bank is turning into a hub for community education. From storytime events for the little ones in cooperation with the Missoula Library to the Empower Place, from Spectrum UM cooking and craft classes. The Missoula Food Bank is becoming a destination for families and individuals of all ages to learn new skills and find new hope.
I think for us there's a couple of different sort of motivations. The first one is trying to reduce long-term and generational poverty, right? If we can help kids get literacy skills and science skills, even in an environment where they think they're having fun and they don't realize that they're being educated, then maybe those are kids who come from lower income backgrounds who have a different level of opportunity moving forward.
At the same time, Brock says the educational programs are helping busy families learn new and more efficient ways to cook, stretching their food budgets. Join us tonight as I go on special assignment to also learn how the classes and new offerings at the Missoula Food Bank are helping to build ties for a stronger community.
Well, still ahead here on MTN, who is spending so-called dark money in Montana?
And a film that recently premiered in Missoula takes a look at that while 2 major cases are still in the courts. That and much more still ahead here on KPAX.